So unless you've been living under the world's most soundproofed rock for the past week, you'll know that Donald Trump is set to take his place as President of the United States. This comes not a great deal of time after Great Britain voted to leave the EU with the Brexit vote. The most surprising thing about these events to me is the fact that those strongly opposed to these things can't seem to wrap their head around how it happened. Although to be fair, those of us who either supported them or were somewhat indifferent were just as surprised as you when it did happen. I believe there are three major contributing factors going on that if you haven't already, you really do need to think about. First and foremost, there was overwhelming pro-Hillary coverage. The mass media loved Hillary. They had their heads so far up her arse they couldn't or wouldn't see the concerns that the public at large had. The email scandal. The evidence that Hillary may have won her nomination through less than savoury means. Her flip-flopping on issues and her support of unpopular political ideas. The list goes on. But these things just weren't being reported on in any significant way by the mainstream press. And yet, the most absurd thing is, they didn't really have anything positive to say. The Hillary campaign seemed to rely on two flimsy as fuck premises. A. She's not Trump. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do. And B. Vagina. The amount of times I had seen pundits fall on these 2 points was absurd. Yeah, she might be the status quo. Yeah, she might be pro-banks and funded by big business. But at least she's not Trump and has a different set of chromosomes. This all rang very hollow with a lot of voters. 2. The shaming. Donald Trump is a racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, misogynist, and he probably kicks kittens. And you know what? So is every single person who even thinks of voting for him. Also, if you vote for a third party, you are just as bad or worse since you are throwing away your vote. The funny thing about people is, if you try to shame them into doing what you want, they tend to tell you to fuck off. When people had legitimate problems and were shamed for expressing them, they fell silent and hardened their resolve. The vast majority of Trump supporters had problems that no one in the Hillary camp dared address. Trump did. His solutions? Ridiculous and unworkable a lot of the time. But was he listening? You damn right. Of course, the worst part of the shaming is that those who do actually have repugnant opinions about race, gender or whatever are convinced that everybody who voted with them agrees, even though chances are 99% of them do not. So well done for emboldening bigots. Great job. 3. The denial. Anyone who was pro-Hillary would have looked and seen everything saying she was going to win, and thought, meh, my vote won't change anything. I got shit to do anyway. It'll be fine. On the flip side, Trump supporters will have been galvanized. They wanted to make sure they had whatever chance they could to win, and to make sure their voices were heard. The very reasons I have laid out here for Trump's success all apply to Brexit. Europe might have its problems, but at least it's not as bad as leaving. And if you want to leave, well, you just hate foreigners. But don't worry folks, we're going to win anyway, so stay home and have a cold beer. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but I do believe that these things were key, and could easily be changed by the average person. Ultimately, there is a bright side to both of these things happening, even for those who are opposed to them so much. It's not going to be as bad as you've been led to believe. Trump talks a big game, but he is still accountable to all Americans whether they voted for him or not, and will be kept firmly in check by the systems in place to make sure he doesn't blow up the whole goddamn world for no reason. And as you may or may not have noticed, Britain didn't sink into the sea or float off into space, and I haven't seen any reports of thousands of foreigners being fired into the sun. But at the very least, things will change. Now those who have problems know they can make a difference. The establishment is shitting itself, as until now, it always got what it wanted. So politicians are going to have to actually listen to what people want. Not their big business mates, not overseas donors to their shady charities, the people. So hopefully another insane clusterfuck like this, only much, much worse, doesn't happen again. And hopefully those of you who wouldn't listen to your fellow men and women, who pointed and shouted racist every time someone brought up some of their legitimate fears, hopefully this time you will listen and understand that these people aren't evil just because they have different life experiences to you. They aren't evil just because they disagree with you. Finally, to those who did get what they wanted, try not to be too much of a dick. Winning is sweet in the face of over-the-top vitriol, but it's even sweeter when you can be humble, supportive, and prove to everyone why you were right and how we can make everything better for everyone now. Take care, folks. We have a lot of work to do.